Okay, so in this video we're going to keep exploring the properties of real numbers. And here we're going to see the properties of negative numbers. So if you have negative 1 and you multiply it by a number a, what do you get? You get negative a. If you have a negative number 1 with negative a, you get what? Positive a. If you have negative a times a positive b, you get negative ab. If you have negative a times a negative b, you get positive ab. If you have negative times a plus b, you get negative a minus b. And if you have negative a minus b, you get negative a plus b. Okay. So let's go over these properties. Negative 1 times any number, okay, it's going to give you a negative number, okay? Unless, of course, right, this is implying that a is a positive number, right? So negative 1 times any positive real number, right, is going to give you negative number, right? So negative 1 times, it could be 3, give you negative 3, negative 1 times 4, negative 4, that's the first property. Right? Now negative 1 times a negative number is always going to give you a positive number. So negative 1 times negative 3 gives you positive 3. Right? If you have a negative number, let's say negative 5, you multiply that by a positive number, which is 3, you're going to get a negative number. Why is that? Well, this here is the same thing as saying negative 1 times 5 times 3, okay? And if you recall the associative property, it does not matter in which order you multiply numbers. So we're going to multiply negative 1 after we multiply 5 times 3, which is 15, okay? Gives you negative 15. So here we're using the associative property to prove that is true. If you have negative a times a negative b, okay, and we're going to plug in numbers for that. So we're going to plug in negative 3 and negative 5. Again, we can use the associative property of multiplication. You have negative 1 times 3 times a negative 1 times, we'll make b 6, right? 6, right? Or you can group to like numbers. Negative 1 times negative 1 times 6 times 3. Again, this is the associative property, if you recall. So negative 1 times negative 1, right? We use this property here. We get a positive number. We get a positive 1 times 6 times 3, right? Any number times 1 is 6 times 3. You get 18. Now, this here is the distributive property in action. If you have a negative 1 times a plus b, you distribute the negative to the a, and you distribute the negative to the b. So if we plug in the numbers, let's say 3 plus 5. Okay. There's two ways about going this problem. We could add 3 plus 5, okay, immediately, and we would get 8. And then we multiply by negative 1, we get negative 8. Okay. But just to illustrate the distributive property and the property of negative numbers, we're going to first do negative 3, and then we're going to do negative 5. We would get negative 3, okay. The sign then changes, minus 5 gives you negative 8. Okay. If you take negative 1 times a minus b, okay, we're going to plug in numbers, negative 1, this thing will do 3 minus 5. What happened? Again, you could immediately subtract a negative 5 from a positive 3, and you would get what? Negative 2 times a negative 1 gives you positive 2. But we're going to distribute piece by piece. Negative 1 times 3, excuse me, is negative 3. and then distribute that to the negative 5, the sign changes, and you get positive 2. And that is the property of negative numbers.